Before any man can achieve success in the outer world, he must first claim it in the realm of his own mind. The world does not respond to wishful thinking, but it bends to the will of those who act with purpose, with faith, and with the unwavering conviction that their goal is already theirs. I am here to tell you today, if you wish to rise, if you wish to conquer, if you wish to transform your life, you must learn to act as if you've already achieved it. Will you step into it now, or keep rehearsing failure? In a few moments, you will learn how to develop the mindset and habits of a successful person. By adopting these practices consistently, you can work toward achieving your goals and creating the success you desire. The power of mental rehearsal. You possess within you a power so profound that once mastered, it can transform the very fabric of your reality. This power begins with your thoughts. Every achievement in human history first existed as a mental image in someone's mind before it manifested in a physical world. The great achievers throughout history understood this fundamental truth. You must see it in your mind before you can hold it in your hand. When you act as if you've already achieved your desires, you're engaging in what I call mental rehearsal. Your subconscious mind cannot distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and an actual one. Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile barrier when experts claimed it was physically impossible. Before his historic achievement, he visualized himself breaking this barrier repeatedly. He acted as if it were already possible, rehearsing the achievement mentally until his body followed. You too can harness this power. Begin each morning by visualizing your goals as already accomplished. Feel the emotions, see the details, hear the sounds of success. When you walk, adopt the posture of the person you aspire to become. When you speak, use the vocabulary of someone who has already achieved what you desire. Your subconscious mind will begin to accept these new patterns as reality and work tirelessly to bring them into physical form. Understanding the law of attraction. Have you ever noticed how some individuals seem to effortlessly attract success while others struggle despite their best efforts? The difference often lies not in their actions alone, but in the invisible forces they've learned to harness. The universe operates by certain immutable laws. Perhaps the most transformative is the law of attraction, which reveals that like attracts like in every dimension of our existence. Your thoughts are not merely passive observations. They are magnetic forces broadcasting continuous signals that attract corresponding experiences into your life. This isn't some mystical concept divorced from reality. It's the practical application of advanced psychology and quantum principles working in perfect harmony. The observer effect in quantum physics demonstrates that particles behave differently when observed, suggesting a profound connection between consciousness and physical reality. When you begin acting as if you've already achieved your desired outcomes, something remarkable happens. You shift your entire energetic signature. Your thoughts, words, emotions, and actions align with success rather than struggle. You begin resonating at the frequency of achievement rather than yearning. Thomas Watson and his creation of IBM. Long before international business machines dominated the computing landscape, Watson implemented a revolutionary approach. He didn't just tell his employees to work harder. He insisted they embody the identity of industry leaders before they had earned that title. His sales force, dressed impeccably, spoke with unwavering confidence, and conducted business with the assured demeanor of giants when they were still operating from humble beginnings. This wasn't pretense, it was strategic alignment with a future reality they were determined to create. You must grasp this fundamental truth. What you persistently focus on expands in your experience. This is not wishful thinking, but a psychological principle known as selective attention. Your reticular activating system, the filtering mechanism in your brain, seeks evidence that confirms your dominant thoughts while filtering out contradictory information. If your mental landscape is dominated by thoughts of scarcity, limitation, and impossibility, you'll unconsciously seek and find evidence to reinforce these beliefs. Conversely, when you adopt the mindset of abundance, acting as if your desired outcomes are already manifesting, your perception shifts to notice opportunities that were always present but previously invisible to you. Begin today by revolutionizing your vocabulary. Words carry vibrational frequencies that either align with or repel your desires. Eliminate phrases that affirm limitation. Instead of lamenting, "I can't afford this," state confidently, "I'm strategically allocating my resources toward my highest priorities right now." Rather than timidly hoping for positive outcomes, declare with certainty, "I know this will succeed because I've aligned every element necessary for its achievement." Your words literally create your world by programming your subconscious mind, which accepts your statements as commands to be fulfilled. Choose them as carefully as an architect selects materials for a masterpiece, because that's precisely what you're doing. architecting your future reality through the power of aligned thought, word, and action. Remember that this principle operates with mathematical precision. It's not concerned with your worthiness or your past, only with the consistent signals you're transmitting now. When you genuinely feel, speak, and act as if you're already living in your desired reality, the universe has no choice but to rearrange itself to match this new energetic pattern you've established. The great achievers throughout history understood this principle. They didn't wait for external circumstances to change before adjusting their internal state. They reversed the formula, creating the internal conditions first, knowing the external would inevitably follow. The identity shift, the greatest mistake in the pursuit of extraordinary achievement, is believing that success is primarily about what you do. The hidden truth that separates those who merely attempt greatness from those who embody it is this: true transformation demands more than superficial behavior modification. It requires a fundamental identity shift at the core of your being. Consider the profound distinction between someone who says, "I'm trying to get in shape," versus one who declares, "I am an athlete." The former exists in a perpetual state of effort and struggle, while the latter simply lives according to their nature. This distinction isn't merely semantic. It represents entirely different operating systems within your psyche. It's the difference between constantly pushing against your natural tendencies and simply expressing who you've become. The most powerful example of identity-level transformation can be found in how John F. Kennedy approached the space race during the peak of Cold War tension. When America lagged behind in space exploration, Kennedy didn't equivocate or speak tentatively about America's aspirations. He stood before Congress and later at Rice University and declared with unwavering certainty, "We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard." This wasn't merely a goal announcement, it was an identity declaration that fundamentally altered how Americans perceived themselves. Kennedy didn't position America as a nation attempting to catch up. He spoke as if reaching the moon was already written in the stars, merely awaiting manifestation. This identity-level communication galvanized an entire nation, transforming ordinary engineers, mathematicians, and administrators into pioneers who accomplished what previously seemed impossible. Your current circumstances, your income, relationships, health, and achievements are not random occurrences, but precise reflections of your current identity. They represent the natural harvest of who you believe yourself to be at the deepest level. To create different results, you must become a different person. This transformation begins with a profound question: who would I be if I had already achieved my highest aspirations? Be specific in your exploration. Would this future version of yourself maintain different morning rituals? Would they speak with different vocabulary, tone, and conviction? Would their physical posture embody different qualities? Would they allocate their time, attention, and resources differently? Once you've clearly defined this evolved identity, begin embodying these characteristics immediately, not as an act of pretending, but as a decision to step into this new reality. This isn't about waiting until external circumstances validate your new identity. It's about reversing the traditional formula of achievement. Rather than believing you must first have success to be successful, recognize that you must first be successful internally to have success externally. Your nervous system cannot indefinitely maintain contradictory beliefs about who you are. When you consistently act as if you're already the person you aspire to become, your mind experiences cognitive dissonance, the psychological discomfort that arises from holding conflicting beliefs. To resolve this tension, your subconscious mind will work tirelessly to align your reality with your new self-concept. This is precisely how ordinary individuals throughout history have accomplished extraordinary feats. They didn't achieve greatness and then adopt the identity of someone great. They first embraced the identity of greatness, often when all external evidence contradicted this self-perception, and their reality gradually reorganized itself to match this internal shift. Begin today by writing a detailed description of the person you're becoming. Move, decide, and allocate resources as this person would. When faced with choices, ask yourself, what would the version of me who has already achieved my goals do in this situation? Then act accordingly, not as an exercise in visualization, but as an expression of who you've decided to be. Remember that this identity shift isn't about deluding yourself. It's about recognizing that your current identity was itself a construction, one often built on limited beliefs and past conditioning rather than your true potential. You're not pretending to be someone you're not. You're deciding to become who you truly are beneath the accumulated limitations of your past. 4. Overcoming the fear of failure. In the vast landscape of human potential, there exists one obstacle more formidable than any external circumstance: the paralyzing fear of failure. This insidious force has derailed more dreams, stifled more innovations, and imprisoned more potential than perhaps any other psychological barrier. It keeps capable individuals trapped in mediocrity, constantly whispering that the risk of disappointment outweighs the possibility of achievement. Yet when you examine the lives of history's greatest achievers, you discover a fundamentally different relationship with failure. They didn't succeed because they were immune to setbacks. They triumphed because they viewed these inevitable challenges through an entirely different lens. When you act as if your success is inevitable, fear loses its stranglehold on your decision-making. This isn't blind optimism or denial of potential difficulties. It's a strategic reframing that transforms obstacles from threats into essential components of your journey toward mastery. Abraham Lincoln, before he became enshrined in history, his path to the presidency wasn't paved with uninterrupted success, quite the opposite. He endured the humiliation of multiple business failures, including a bankruptcy that took him 17 years to resolve. He suffered the personal anguish of nervous breakdowns and the death of the woman he loved. He experienced the public rejection of losing 8 separate elections. Yet throughout these devastating setbacks, Abraham Lincoln maintained something extraordinary: the demeanor, conviction, and dignity of a leader destined for greatness. He didn't merely hope circumstances would improve. He operated with quiet certainty that each apparent failure was perfectly preparing him for his ultimate purpose. When others might have accepted defeat as final judgment on their capabilities, Abraham Lincoln treated it as necessary education for the historic role he would eventually fulfill. You must cultivate this same psychological resilience. Begin by asking yourself a transformative question when confronting any challenge. How would I approach this situation if I knew with absolute certainty that my success was guaranteed? Notice how this simple reframing instantly shifts your perspective from fear-based hesitation to confident exploration. This shift manifests in your communication. Eliminate tentative language from your vocabulary. Replace weak phrases like "I'll try" or "I hope to" with declarations of certainty: "I will" and "I am." Speak about your projects not as speculative ventures, but as inevitable achievements unfolding according to plan. This isn't semantic manipulation, it's neurological reprogramming that alters how your brain processes challenges. Move through the world as if your success has already been written in the cosmic ledger, merely awaiting your arrival at the appointed time. This perspective doesn't eliminate obstacles, it transforms your relationship with them. Each setback becomes not evidence of your inadequacy, but confirmation that you're on the path to mastery, encountering precisely the resistance necessary to develop your capability. Remember that failure only becomes final when you accept it as such. Every temporary defeat contains within it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit when viewed through the lens of inevitability. What appears as rejection often represents redirection towards something better aligned with your ultimate purpose. What seems like delay frequently provides the additional preparation needed for sustainable success. When you act as if you cannot fail, not from arrogance but from deep certainty in your capacity to extract value from every experience, you naturally take bolder actions and persist through challenges that would defeat others. You'll find yourself attempting what the fearful consider impossible, not because you're immune to failure, but because you've redefined it as a temporary and necessary component of your journey. The greatest achievements in human history have been accomplished not by those who avoided failure, but by those who transcended their fear of it. They understood that courage isn't the absence of fear, but action in its presence. Begin today operating from the unshakable conviction that your success is inevitable, and watch as obstacles that once appeared insurmountable transform into stepping stones toward your destiny. Creating empowering daily rituals. Most people dramatically overestimate what they can accomplish in a day while underestimating what they can achieve in a decade. This cognitive error leads many to chase dramatic breakthroughs while neglecting the true engine of transformation, the small, consistent actions performed daily. Your life isn't primarily shaped by the occasional monumental decisions, but by the seemingly insignificant choices you make every day. These choices, accumulated over time, become your destiny. Creating daily rituals that align with your highest aspirations represents the most powerful strategy for acting as if you've already achieved your goals. These consistent practices don't merely prepare you for future success, they gradually reshape your self-image until it perfectly matches your desired reality. Your self-concept, once transformed, naturally produces behaviors consistent with this new identity, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of achievement. Vince Lombardi when he took command of the Green Bay Packers. Inheriting a team that had won just a single game the previous season, Lombardi didn't merely adjust game strategies or acquire new players. He instituted a comprehensive system of daily practice rituals deliberately designed to condition his players to think, feel, and perform like champions long before they had earned that title on the scoreboard. Lombardi's players practiced with a precision and intensity that far exceeded league standards. They rehearsed fundamentals with relentless attention to detail when other teams focused solely on complex plays. Most importantly, they were required to conduct themselves with the dignity, discipline, and professionalism of champions in every interaction, from how they dressed entering the facility to how they addressed one another in meetings. These weren't arbitrary demands, but strategic identity conditioning that culminated in the Packers winning 5 NFL championships in 7 years. You must establish your own championship rituals with equal intentionality. Begin each morning by dressing slightly better than what's required for your current position. This simple act signals to your subconscious mind that you're already advancing beyond your present circumstances. The psychological impact of elevating your appearance extends far beyond external perception. It fundamentally alters how you perceive yourself and consequently how you organize your physical environment, particularly your workspace, as if you're already operating at your next level of achievement. Eliminate clutter that suggests disorganization or mediocrity. Arrange your tools and resources with the precision and care that would characterize someone already successful in your field. Your environment constantly broadcasts messages to your subconscious mind about what's possible and appropriate for someone like you. Deliberately curate the intellectual stimulation you receive daily. Listen to the conversations and engage with the ideas that your future self would prioritize. This isn't about passive consumption, but strategic mental conditioning. When you consistently expose your mind to thinking at the level you aspire to reach, you naturally begin processing information through more sophisticated mental frameworks. Conclude each day with a powerful ritual of reflection. Document your accomplishments not as preliminary steps toward your goals, but as expressions of the person you're becoming. This subtle reframing, celebrating who you are becoming rather than merely what you've done, accelerates your identity transformation more powerfully than focusing solely on external metrics. Be prepared for these rituals to feel uncomfortable initially, perhaps even fraudulent, as if you're merely pretending to be someone you're not. This discomfort isn't evidence that your approach is flawed, but confirmation that you're pushing beyond your existing identity boundaries. This discomfort zone is precisely where growth occurs. The psychological principle of cognitive dissonance ensures that your mind will work to resolve the tension between your current self-perception and these new behaviors. Persist through this temporary discomfort, recognizing that each day you're literally reconditioning your nervous system to operate at a higher level. The neural pathways that initially require conscious effort to activate will strengthen through repetition until these championship behaviors become automatic. Eventually, what once demanded deliberate practice will become second nature, and you'll have successfully become the person who naturally achieves what once seemed impossible. The path to extraordinary achievement isn't found in occasional heroic efforts, but in mundane daily rituals performed with unwavering consistency and clear intention. Harnessing the power of decisive language. Language is far more than a mere tool for communication. It is the architecture of your reality. The words you habitually use don't simply describe your world. They actively create it by shaping the neural pathways through which you perceive and interpret everything around you. When you act as if you've already achieved your goals, you must meticulously adopt the decisive language patterns that characterize achievement. This transformation begins by eliminating weak, uncertain speech patterns and systematically replacing them with words that embody absolute conviction and crystal clarity. History provides us with perhaps no more powerful demonstration of language's transformative capacity than Winston Churchill's leadership during Britain's darkest hour. As Nazi forces swept across Europe and the British military faced catastrophic defeat at Dunkirk, the nation teetered on the edge of capitulation. In this moment of existential crisis, Churchill didn't resort to tentative language of hope or speculation. He didn't say England would try to persevere or that they might eventually prevail. Instead, he stood before Parliament and declared with unwavering certainty, "We shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds, we shall fight in the fields and in the streets, we shall fight in the hills, we shall never surrender." These weren't merely inspiring words, they were psychological architecture that restructured the British consciousness. Churchill's decisive language created a mental fortress that Hitler's armies, despite their superior military position, could not penetrate. Through the alchemical power of language, an objectively desperate situation was transformed into a narrative of inevitable triumph against temporary adversity. You must become equally vigilant about your own language patterns in the pursuit of your aspirations. Begin by conducting a thorough audit of your habitual speech. Identify and systematically eliminate phrases that signal uncertainty or hesitation. I hope, I'll try, maybe, I should, I might, or with luck. Replace these linguistic undermines with declarations of absolute certainty. I am, I will, I know, I choose, I create, Consider the profound neurological difference between these statements. I hope to close that major account this quarter versus I will close that major account this quarter. The former subtly programs your nervous system for possible disappointment, while the latter activates entirely different neural circuits, those associated with certainty, focus, and resourcefulness. This isn't semantic manipulation, it's strategic neurological programming. Pay particular attention to the questions you habitually ask yourself, especially when facing challenges. Questions are perhaps the most powerful form of language because they instantly direct your mental focus and determine the quality of your thinking. The human brain is fundamentally a solution-finding mechanism that will diligently find answers to whatever questions you pose, regardless of whether those questions serve or sabotage your aspirations. Instead of asking disempowering questions like, why is this happening to me? Or why is this so difficult? Train yourself to ask questions that presuppose success and stimulate creativity. How can I use this situation to my advantage? Or what's the most effective approach here? Replace what if I fail with how specifically will I succeed? Notice how these alternative questions immediately redirect your focus from problems to solutions, from obstacles to opportunities. Language isn't merely how you communicate with others, it's the programming code of your subconscious mind. Every word you speak is a direct command to your nervous system, instructing it in how to interpret and respond to your environment. When you consistently use the language of achievement, you systematically install success patterns that eventually become your default operating system. Begin today by becoming meticulously conscious of your language choices. Listen carefully to your internal dialogue and external communication. When you catch yourself using language that contradicts your highest aspirations, immediately reframe your statement with the decisive language of achievement. This practice may feel artificial initially, but through consistent repetition, these empowering language patterns will become your automatic response. Remember that words create worlds. Choose yours as if you've already become the person you aspire to be, and watch as your reality gradually reorganizes itself to match the powerful declarations you've made. Surrounding yourself with success, your quest for extraordinary achievement faces a powerful yet often overlooked force, your environment. Like water flowing downhill, human behavior naturally follows the path of least resistance created by our surrounding. Your environment, the people, places, information, and objects that comprise your daily experience either reinforces your highest aspirations or subtly undermines them through constant contradiction. When acting as if you've already achieved your goals, you must deliberately engineer an environment that validates and strengthens this new identity rather than contradicting it at every turn. Few understood this principle more profoundly than Andrew Carnegie, who rose from impoverished immigrant to becoming the wealthiest man in the world. When asked about the secret to his unprecedented success, Carnegie didn't credit his business acumen or work ethic alone. He attributed his achievements primarily to what he called the mastermind principle, the strategic practice of surrounding himself with minds superior to his own in various specialized fields. Carnegie recognized that his personal limitations could be transcended through careful cultivation of his human environment. The most remarkable aspect of Carnegie's approach wasn't that he eventually surrounded himself with exceptional minds after achieving success. It was that he began forming these alliances while still climbing toward his goals. Long before amassing his fortune, Carnegie was deliberately associating with individuals who thought, spoke, and operated at levels he aspired to reach. He understood that environmental elevation must precede, not follow, personal elevation. You must become equally intentional about engineering your human environment. Begin by conducting a careful inventory of your 5 closest associations. The people with whom you spend the most time. Their collective attitudes, beliefs, and achievements create an unconscious standard that your mind naturally gravitates toward. If these individuals aren't already operating at the level you aspire to reach, begin strategically supplementing your social circle. Seek mentors who have already achieved what you desire. Join organizations and communities where your aspirations represent the norm rather than the exception. Immerse yourself in the biographies and teachings of those who have overcome challenges similar to those you face. These environmental upgrades aren't about rejecting existing relationships, but about strategically expanding your circle of influence. When necessary, you must distance yourself lovingly but firmly from individuals who consistently doubt your vision or reinforce limiting beliefs about what's possible for you. This isn't about judgment or superiority, but about psychological self-preservation. Just as you wouldn't expect a plant to thrive in toxic soil, you cannot expect your aspirations to flourish in an environment that constantly undermines them. Your physical environment carries equal significance in this transformation. Your workspace, transportation, clothing, and tools all broadcast continuous messages to your subconscious mind about who you are and what you deserve. Organize your workspace with the order and sophistication of someone already operating at your desired level of achievement. Dress in a manner that aligns with your aspirations rather than merely meeting minimal standards for your current position. Invest strategically in quality tools and resources that your future self would naturally utilize. These environmental adjustments might initially feel presumptuous or artificial, as if you're getting ahead of yourself. This discomfort signals that you're effectively challenging your existing identity rather than remaining within its familiar boundaries. Each environmental upgrade serves as a powerful pattern interrupt, disrupting habitual thoughts and behaviors that keep you anchored to your current reality. Remember that human consciousness inevitably moves in the direction of its dominant thought. By deliberately surrounding yourself with the symbols, information, and embodiments of success, you ensure that your dominant thoughts center on achievement rather than limitation. Your environment becomes a continuous reinforcement system for your new identity, providing thousands of subtle affirmations daily that you're becoming the person you've decided to be. Begin today by identifying one aspect of your environment, whether human or physical, that most contradicts the identity you're cultivating. Develop a specific plan to upgrade this environmental element within the next 7 days.